Hello, Kanika here. Welcome to the Kitchenpostcards Podcast. Indian meals are rarely served in the form of courses, unlike Western or Mediterranean cuisines. Most dishes, soupy or dry, yogurt, breads, and salads are served together in a thali, each in its own katori or bowl. So far in this season, we've talked about the origins of our own food habits, influences of our families, and the diversity of seasonal food in northern India. Today, we move on to discuss some pantry staples grains, flours, and pulses. So let's begin. Hi, Sakshi.
Hi, Kanika.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Okay, now that we're talking pantry staples, so first question leaving aside spices, because what would we do without them? If you had to set up a kitchen for maybe a short time, a temporary kitchen, what are the five must have staples that you will go and buy?
Okay, that is just that's a very small number for an Indian kitchen, but I will try. I will let you know. So,
Yeah, I threw you a curveball.
okay. So I would first of all have rice.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the easiest to cook. Then there is dal, moong chilka dal,
Okay.
or I don't think it's always available. So a moong dhuli would also
Okay.
do. Atta, of course, I need atta for rotis, parathe, or whatever.
Yeah.
Then masoor dal, because it's light, it can be mixed with moong chilka or moong or whatever. And five is any kind of chole or chane,
Okay.
kale ya safed,
Oh, so any that you find.
any kind of chickpea.
Okay, perfect. So, I mean, I'm let's talk about dals. Like, you listed two kinds. You listed moong chilka and you listed masoor. Or did I?
Yes.
Yes. So why moong chilka? And also tell us how would you cook it? Like what's the quickest way of cooking a dal like that?
Okay, like since we are starting with dal, let me just say
Yeah.
this won't be a dal conversation. I meant dal. It's such a bad joke. It's a very bad joke. We can cut this out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the star for me is moong chilka, the split dehusked, split unhusked version,
Hmm.
because this one dal, when you soak it, it can lead to several kind of projects.
Mm-hmm.
So you soak this dal with water, you wash it and then you soak it, and for a couple of hours. After that, you run your hands through it, and you can then see that the chilka, the peel, the husk, it starts separating from the dal. Collect that, keep it aside. I'll come back to that.
Okay.
So the dal, you've let it soak for 2 hours. So you'll see that it's become a little plump. You wash it, you have removed all the chilka. It takes a while to remove all the chilka. You run it through water, you drain it, and it goes back and forth. It takes like 5-10 minutes to do that. Then the first use for that dal is that you can drain it, make a tadka in a pressure cooker with just I think just oil, hing, and jeera.
Mm-hmm.
Steam this dal with like just a few tablespoons of water, and that's it. It's a dry preparation. It's a dry dal.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you serve it with nimbu, dhania, and bhuna jeera. It is so beautiful. It is the loveliest snack. We have it as a snack, like a breakfast thing. So that's one thing you can do with that dal.
Uh-huh.
Another route is that you can grind it up and you can make fritters out of it,
Hmm.
like mangodi,
Right.
moong
We
mangodi.
mentioned
So you
that.
can make that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned that in one of the episodes.
Yeah.
I think summer.
Yes. Summer.
Yes, so you can grind it, you can make that batter, and you can just fry it up and all that. You can either go that way, or you can make curry out of it. You know that? It's called moong ki dal ki curry. So the pakoras go into the curry like a normal curry pakoda, and the batter makes up. You make it a little runny, add spices, add yogurt and all that, and that becomes a curry. Like you cook it, of course, the way you do with the
So,
curry.
okay. So I have a question about the curry. Are you done with the chilka yet? Or is there more?
No, I'm not. No, sorry. There is a little bit more. So, so this is a lighter version of the curry. But then remember the chilka?
Hmm.
That chilka, you knead it into a dough with chopped onion and dhania and mirchi, and you add spices if you like that. And that becomes the most beautiful, wholesome, fiber-rich paranthi for your breakfast.
Oh, wow.
So all these things that I've listed from the mung chilka is very different from your regular dal that we cook, like a stew kind of dal, like a
Yeah.
runny dal or whatever dal. So now I'm done with the mung chilka.
Oh, great. No, those are all very new to me as well because I've never eaten these. And my question was, one about the curry. Is this something where you also add yogurt or do you just cook it as is?
I think you do need to add yogurt to
Okay.
this.
Okay.
I think for consistency, because otherwise the dal on its own, like a ground dal paste, might be grainy, or I don't know. I've eaten it. I haven't made it myself. But this is another old Delhi influence.
Yeah.
This is, I think, a UP old Delhi kind of a preparation that I have eaten in one part of my family.
No, that's fascinating. I've never heard of that. And the other thing was the sukhi dal that you mentioned, because
Huh.
that reminds me of another sukhi dal that is quite common, which is the urad, the safed urad wali sukhi dal. So
Right.
yeah, because I think a lot of us in our households, whatever our food habits, have a tendency to talk about food by its characteristics, like talk about it with its color or whether it's dry or wet or soupy. So, if someone would say ki sukhi dal banao aaj, so in our household, it would mean the split and husked urad, the moong, the
Acha.
black gram, which is split and husked and the inside is white. So that is the sukhi dal for us. And I've never had the sukhi dal you mentioned, but funnily, both of them are served with a wedge of lemon, or you sprinkle it before you eat it. And similarly, like when you talk about colors, the yellow and the greens and all of that. So let's do a quick run through. Like, what does a yellow dal mean for you? Or pili dal?
Pili dal, yes. So yeah, that's a good point you made about characteristic. And the first thing before sukhi, I thought of pili dal, like
Hmm.
pili dal bana do.
Hmm.
So pili dal can be, I think in our house, most people know which dal is which.
Okay.
Of course, it ends up being pili
Yeah.
in the pressure cooker when it's made because of haldi and everything. But most common, I think, is moong masoor, a combination of moong masoor.
Right.
Somehow, I don't know why moong masoor is a combination. I know for sure that both are lighter on your stomach. So that's like the quickest
Yeah.
dal that you can cook. You don't even need to go up to one whistle on traditional pressure cooker.
Hmm.
So that is one kind of, that is pili dal for me, moong masoor ki dal.
Okay. And
What about you?
yeah, actually same. So pili dal is moong masoor ki dal, and then there are other dals. So like the green hari, as children you would say kaun si dal bani hai, and if you see the color is green. So then I later learned that that's the sabut moong, which leads
Right.
to your other varieties of moong that you just talked about, the moong chilka that you just talked about. Then there's kali dal, which is
Hmm.
actually the whole version of the black gram. Again, when you
Mm-hmm.
split it, you can get a similar version as moong chilka. And then when you husk it further, you get the white or the sukhi dal that I refer to in my household as sukhi dal. But it's basically split and husked urad, which has a lot of uses. Like if you start thinking about how it's been used in our cultures, it's probably one of the
Right.
oldest, most commonly used dals in our country, like in the subcontinent. I don't know. You've read Katia Chaya, so I don't know if that's accurate, but I think that's kind of what he mentions.
I haven't
No,
read
you haven't.
all of it.
Okay.
He has so much. I have two books by KTH. I have both
Yeah.
the dictionary and the historical guide, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But the maash ki dal, the urad ki dal that you mentioned, yes, I do find like the Punjabis. Obviously, we have recipes on the blog.
Yeah.
We have the maa ki dal. It's called maa ki dal.
Yeah.
And we did we ever find out why it was called maa ki dal? Maa di dal.
So it's Maha but with a slight nasal N at the end. And I think that might have to do with the month of the year. Or so no, we didn't really get a conclusive answer, basically. Yeah, we
Yes.
did not. So
That was, I think, what we derived from our research
yeah,
from different places.
yeah,
But yes, so I just want to say that, of course, the Punjabis make it several ways. We make it like a makhani, which is a fairly new thing. There is the dal makhani. There is a normal maa ki dal. There is what in my house is called dhabe wali dal. It can just be a langar wali dal in several contexts, you know. So the one I'm mentioning is urad chilka with chana, chickpea.
Yes.
That is one option.
Yeah.
But we also make bhalle out of it. Dahi bade, bhalle. The South makes vade and they use it in their dosa batter.
Yes.
But do you ever make dosa batter?
I do. I do. I actually do make dosa batter. So I wanted to say the version with the Mahdi dal, which you were mentioning as dhabe wali dal or langar wali dal with split chickpeas, is also called Ma Cholean di dal in Punjab.
Yes.
Yeah. So the only reason they call it cholean is because the split chickpea comes from a chickpea. And the chickpea is again one of those beans that is so versatile, right? Like you mentioned in your staples chole, which is the white garbanzo bean or the Kabuli chana.
Right.
It has so many names. Um, then when you split it, you can do a lot of different things with it. You can either make you can actually just make namkeens. You can roast it. You can even just the chickpea itself, a whole chickpea, even before you get to the husking and the splitting part of it. A whole chickpea has so many uses. Like in contemporary cuisine, people are sprinkling it all over their salads. So you're getting these steamed and salted chickpeas in your salad. You're getting roast whole chickpeas in very, very commonly used in namkeens in India. Like I remember that. And then, of course, once you've broken it down and husked it, then it becomes the chane ki dal that we commonly call it as chane ki dal. Then you grind it and you mill it and you get flour, which is besan. And that always makes me think of curry. So that's why I had a question about the moong dal ki curry. Is it very similar to the regular curry that we are familiar with as Punjabis, made with besan and lots of yogurt in it?
The flavor profile is definitely different. Like I think dals can get chalkier, and I like for some people in a bad way. Some people don't like lentils. Like I think people in the West maybe don't like lentils, and dals are lentils. So I think that is where the very different flavor comes. And the normal curry, I mean besan ki curry, I think is earthier because of besan and the chickpea and all that.
Right.
So about your chickpea, why I listed it because I said chole. So the fun thing is that in our house हम काले चने को भी छोले बोलते हैं और it's like a misnomer. We call it काले छोले, but that's just funny.
Yeah.
That's just one weird thing that is in our house.
No, it's yeah.
But I wonder if technically or botanically if the bade safed chole are similar to the kale chane and I'm not sure.
Good question.
Because see the dal, the chane ki dal is closer to size of the kala chana. It's not as big as the garbanzo, the white garbanzo bean.
No, but I think it does come from the white garbanzo. I don't think it comes from the kala chana. Although you are raising a good question, I don't. They are the same. I mean, they are the same family, but we can research more. I'm actually, as you as we're talking, I'm Googling and I'm looking at Wikipedia. But yeah, we can go more into it because, and about the etymology or how we address it in our households. It's funny that in my household, like my parents' household, they never differentiated between using chole versus chana. They just used the word chana to describe both and added the color.
Ah,
Safed versus kale.
simple.
Whereas if you go to, now that I'm paying attention, if you go to Punjab, they get very quickly confused. If you say chole, it only means the white chana. And if you say chana, like then you have to say kala because that's the chana, and the other one is chole. So I think there is a slight shift in each place.
I have another
Um,
addition to this, which is
sure.
seasonal, but I heard something very strange from my mom today. So, remember, I don't know if I mentioned in the winter episode about cholia. So, the green
You
chole,
did. Yes, you
cholia,
did.
yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
that is the green, fresh
Yeah.
version of the produce, the lentil that we're talking of, the
Mm.
legume that we're talking about. So, very interesting thing that she pointed out today when I told her we are going to record our episode on staples today and talking of dals. She said that she found a green, dry cholia dal in Big Bazaar. And she found it only once and it was very nice. They loved it.
Acha.
But I've never seen that. Have you?
I've definitely seen the green cholia, and I've seen the green cholia both fresh and dried. But the cholia, matlab, it is the entire bean is dried, not
Huh.
split and made into a dal.
Acha.
So green cholia you can get dried also.
Where? Where? Like, do
So
you get in the US or have you seen it in North India or
no, in India, in
Hyderabad?
India,
Any particular region?
like you were mentioning, ki that's something that you cook in the winters. Cholia with aloo cholia या जो भी cholia use करते हैं. So that is something my dadi ji definitely does because she does look out for more seasonal produce and is kind of paying attention कि अब क्या आएगा. तो उनके घर में मैंने देखी है, वहाँ देखी है मैंने
Dried form.
green. हाँ, dried green cholia,
That's
but that's the cholia. Well, that's not a dal. So it's not
okay.
split. So what you're saying, what your
हाँ,
mom
correct.
saw.
No, it
Hmm.
was like जैसे काले छोले होते हैं वैसे हरे छोले.
हाँ.
Again, I said काले छोले.
हाँ नहीं, that I have seen. I have seen that. That is kind of common.
That's
वो
awesome.
मैंने देखा है. और मेरे को छोले और चने की बात से याद आ रहा है कि for a little bit as children we were learning horse riding, and so we were told कि घोड़ों को गुड़ चना बहुत अच्छा लगता है. So if you have to become friends with the horse that you're riding, always bring some gur, jaggery, and chana, kale chane, roasted dry kale chane, because that's another great snack that you can use, protein rich,
Hmm.
fiber rich. And so take that and feed it to your
Have
horse,
you tried
and
it?
they'll nuzzle it. Yeah, yeah, they nuzzle it from your hand, and
I
obviously you can, you know they the air rushing out from their mouth and their nostrils will kind of it's tickly. I think it's very tickly.
okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting because that reminds me. I know that horses like. I think कुछ jokingly इसको घोड़े वाली दाल भी बोला जाता है.
Oh, अच्छा अच्छा.
Which is just giving it a bad rep, I think. But anyway, it's a delicious dal.
Hmm.
I love to add it to कौन सी दाल होती है वो? पांच
Panch
वाली.
mail, हाँ,
What
panch
is it
mail,
called?
yeah.
Panchmail, yes. So I don't always make it five. I omit the urad often, but I just pick up any five dals, and most of the times they are moong, masoor, arhar. Arhar we haven't mentioned till
Right.
now, but we'll come to it.
Yeah.
Chana.
Okay, I see. And then I do a slightly different punch mail. Like I will mix the split, like both the split, the green and the black split dals, and then moong, masoor, and arhar. And I don't add chana because I think chana takes a little longer to cook than all these others. So I don't add
Which
chana.
makes me
Hmm.
like I use it when I have to do that. I definitely soak them. So do you always soak dal? How do you cook them?
No,
Like
yeah.
I definitely soak them when I'm making this version.
Okay. No, so I try not to go the soaking route only because it takes longer, and I have to prepare beforehand. So I'm not very good with doing that on a consistent basis. The only dal that I would like to soak is the black whole gram. So the black gram or the sabut urad. That's the one dal that I think it makes a huge difference if you soak it. Whereas with chana, I do realize if you soak it, you get a better result because I often use it for making loki chane ki dal.
Oh yeah,
And now if I don't get loki, I just substitute that with like a zucchini.
nice.
But those vegetables cook very quickly.
Hmm.
So it helps to have a soaked and very and softened dal, going into your pressure cooker so that it cooks a little faster than
I
usual.
agree. So I make a khichdi now because we are talking of dals and I mentioned rice. So another thing you can do with moong chilka is you can make khichdi,
Yes.
but you can also make khichdi out of other dals. And a popular one in our house is the chane ki dal ki khichdi, which I love. I absolutely love it. But the consistency of this khichdi is not runny. It looks like a very beautiful pulao
Hmm.
and these yellow uh, the yellow dal, the
Yeah.
yellow again, the yellow
Yeah.
chana dal, the
Yeah.
yellow chana dal. It looks really beautiful against
Yeah.
the white rice, and it's a. I definitely soak it for this one
Hmm.
because the rice doesn't take as much time. This khichdi is made in a pressure cooker, and when you're pressure cooking, you need to think of how long does each dal or each grain that you're adding to the vessel take to cook.
Right.
Will something get too mushy or something? So that's why this is something that I definitely soak this one. I definitely soak the urad dal, whichever kind, even if it's husked,
Hmm.
even if it's dehusked,
Hmm.
maybe for a little while, maybe half an hour, but not too much.
Hmm.
The whole dal, the whole version of the moong and the urad.
Hmm.
The urad I definitely soak. The moong, the green moong, I don't always soak it for too long. I think it's a fairly it cooks fairly easily. It doesn't take too long.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I agree with that. And I just remembered with the soaking conversation that the moong makes for great, sprouts. Like the easiest, I think, the dal to sprout that actually tastes nice and can be eaten as is the
That's a
moong.
yeah. That's I'd
Uh,
forgotten about that you can do that with dal.
I had forgotten to. But moong sprouts are so versatile, and we have two recipes on the blog about
Mm,
that. Using it in a salad or making a little tadka and a recipe with that. Yeah.
mm,
Um, so now that you've mentioned rice, let's move on to rice. What kind of
mm.
rice do you stock, or what do you use these days?
So these days, very honestly, I use just two kinds of rice. One
Mm-hmm.
is the basmati, long grain basmati, and just because
Mm-hmm.
of familiarity and there is one particular brand that we've stuck to, and I have tried others and I've not liked them and there are some local ones and I am just hesitant to try. Like we are two people, we don't always cook as much, and how much khichdi will I have? So that is one thing that I do, that when I get a rice variety which is not that great for us, which we don't like as much, we use it up in kheer or khichdi because it breaks down and you don't get to know.
Yeah.
But yes, so basmati, long grain basmati, and the red matta rice.
Okay.
But I have to say I am familiar with some other kinds which my parents have.
Hmm.
Like there is tukda basmati,
Mm-hmm.
which is great for every day. There are some that we don't like so much, but I think some others, some people do, like Sela or Parmal, which are slightly thicker, more plumper.
Right.
But we feel, our family feels that there's a slight bite to them, so we don't always like them.
Okay.
There is also a sharbati kind of rice, which gets, I think it doesn't soak up water as much,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know, it's just we don't like it too much. I shouldn't go on about not liking
Not liking
liking.
rice.
I should talk of yeah, I should talk of the one that I do like and I want to try. I want to try Sona Masuri. So I have some friends here who are married to South Indians or are South Indians,
Yeah.
and they say great things about Sona Masuri. I think I have probably had it at my in-laws' house. So that is something I quite like Sona Masuri. So I want to try that. Have you tried it?
I've tried it, but only for making a dosa batter. I haven't cooked it. I have a little
Nice.
bit still lying in my pantry. but I haven't cooked it to eat with, a rice with dal or with something else. But I have used it for
Mm.
dosa batter. So that's my only experience with
So
Sona Masuri.
what about you? What varieties of rice are you
Just
stocking up on?
basmati, very straightforward, plain and simple. Basmati. I'm trying to even further like looking for basmati coming from Punjab. Because I was doing a little bit of research and I realized basmati is actually an old grain. It's not that new. It's been grown in the Indian subcontinent, like the northern plains, Pakistan, that region. So I don't know the exact geographic spread, but whatever little I read, it's a fairly old grain. Of course, now there are so many different modified varieties, and they've been improving on it. So rice was not a common part of the Punjabi, diet for the longest time. It was only a luxury grain used very sparingly to make kheer.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't common to eat it with your meal. So we've only ever used basmati and not really ventured away from it. But I will try. I have Sona Masuri. Let me cook that someday
Yeah,
and tell you how it tastes.
yeah, you must. And have it with some dal and try it out. Like maybe
Yeah.
uh, I think maybe not compare it to the basmati. I know because the basmati is great,
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. But there are so many other kinds of varieties which I think now that we are adults, they deserve a chance.
Oh yes,
But
absolutely. I think we should use them. Like I tried making wild rice, which used to be a native Indian food, and I think still is, but it's much more expensive to buy because it's not produced as widely, and it was a nutty, different experience than what basmati is.
right. Any other uses of rice besides khichdi, the rice on the side of your, main course or something, kheer? Besides that, any other use of rice that you find yourself
Well,
doing?
I've
Because I
used
have one.
leftover rice as a binding agent to make like cutlets kind of stuff. I've done that. Like, I've made like patties with leftover
Oh
rajma, so I
yeah,
would just mix everything.
this is on the blog,
Yeah, there is, yes, there are these rajma burgers on the blog. So you can use a lot of
Rajma
these,
bean
yeah,
burgers.
leftover things to bind it. One of the things I do is use rice for it.
That's a great idea.
Other than that, I haven't. No. What about you?
I was just thinking about it, and I was thinking that it's been a while since I made it. I really enjoy meethe chawal, or what I
Huh.
think it's also called zarda, and I think it's something that Punjabis sometimes make. It's not an everyday thing. It's of course very rare, but it has dry fruits, and I think there is a Persian connection because I think the Iranians also make something similar to that.
Yes.
I read about it in Veronica Rani Sidhu's book,
Okay.
and I adapted her recipe because it's dear. It's like I love this dessert, and that's on the blog too. That's something
Yeah, meethe
that I
chawal.
really enjoy. And I was thinking it's been a while. Banane
That
chahiye.
actually reminds me, I have a distinct memory of one of my elder cousins asking my dadi ji to make meethe chawal because that is something he used to really enjoy. So it is, yes, it is a common thing in the springtime or even in the winters to make meethe chawal. But
Hmm.
closer to spring, I think in Punjab, they definitely
I
make
think
it.
Basant. I made it
Haan,
definitely
basant.
for Basant Panchami for the blog that time.
Haan,
But
haan.
because we've spoken of dals, we've spoken of rice. What is this one lovely lentil that we love with rice? The Punjabis. Rajma.
Rajma. Yeah. Yeah. It would be blasphemous to not mention it and to not think of and talk about it and move on. Yeah, Rajma. But funnily, like Rajma, I only know of it in one form, cooked in a nice, luscious, thick gravy. Like, do you know
Right.
of it in any other form?
No, I think when we did the Rajma, the first attempt that we did on a podcast, which was
Right.
accompanied, which is out there on our YouTube channel with the recipe of how we Punjabis love Rajma, and there you mentioned that I think chili is what it's called, or the people in the West make that
Yes, yes.
with a similar kind of kidney bean. But
Yeah.
yes, rajma means rajma like tari wale rajma, and we love
Hmm.
it with chawal. And if they are a day old, they're best the next day.
Hmm.
But I don't mind them on the day that they've been made also. I really love rajma. The only thing different that I do, I think from people in my extended family that my mom told me is to add ajwain in it to make it slightly more digestible.
Oh, I know we never added ajwain to it, but my mom would cook it either way. Like she would cook it with or without tomatoes, and with or without
Acha.
pureeing the masala. Like you can even cook it with just your, cutting pyaz tomato long and thick, and that will very quickly and easily just melt into the gravy. So
Right.
that's
Do you soak always?
no, I try to, but if I don't, then I just put it in warm water for a couple of hours and then pressure cook it and keep
Ah,
cooking
that
it.
works, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Overnight soaks
Hmm.
are good because that does plump up the grain and make it softer. But because if you do the hot water thing, then it kind of the skin shrivels.
Hmm.
Then
Right.
it's not as smooth textured as it would be if it had been soaked overnight. So that's
Hmm.
the one difference. I would suggest
Do you
soaking
like?
overnight.
Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah.
agree. So, what else? What other kind of beans do you like? Like this is a bean. This is not a lentil.
Lobia is nice, but that's it. Did you have something specific in mind?
No, just lobia. I just wanted to find out about lobia because we've mentioned, I think you and I in our conversations earlier have mentioned how rongi is the word for lobia, and rongi is also the word for lal lobia in my understanding. But what is lal lobia? Is it rajma? Will we ever find out, Kanika?
पता नहीं ये राज कब खुलेगा. I don't know. I think we need viewer and listener help here. So we're going to leave that question
Yeah, we need.
open.
So enough of this. What else? So I also mentioned atta. What is atta for you? What does it mean? Such a stupid question, but tell me.
Yeah, well, actually, stupid and not stupid because again, just like the dals, कि पीली कौन सी है हरी कौन सी है तो आटा भी एक ही तरह का माना जाता है मतलब आटा means whole wheat आटा.
Hmm.
Like I think that's the important distinction because in our we distinguish with very separate names or particular names for different kinds of flowers. Like
Hmm.
I was talking to a neighbor the other day and she happened to see our halwa video.
Arre वाह.
So yeah, and she enjoyed it and she said, oh, I've heard the word halve and halwa like spelt in different ways. I said yes, culturally it has traveled across the world to reach the subcontinent. But she said, oh, I thought it was only made with chickpeas. Like I said, no, no, no. I said it can be made with chickpea flour, not with chickpeas.
Hmm.
It can be made with chickpea flour, and we call that flour besan. And yes, you can have besan ka halwa, but what we made was whole wheat ka halwa, and that we call just aate ka halwa or halwa. So I think atta for us again, for me, has always meant whole wheat flour.
Hmm.
Has it meant anything else for you
I
ever?
think yeah. So atta gundia. Atta means dough,
Hmm.
and what you put in that dough varies. If I
Hmm.
say bhature ka atta gundia, so bhature ka atta can be like, even though we don't make it that often, but bhature ka atta will have maybe a bit of maida or suji or all atta suji sorry, atta suji and maida, or just maida and suji, or just maida. Atta also
That's
means
a
dough. That is what I want to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just going to say that. That's a good, yeah. It's a synonym for a couple of things. So
Hmm.
definitely for the flour itself and the dough.
So not a
Because if
dumb
you come to
question.
think of it,
Like you felt.
no, it's not. Yeah. So, okay, so what is the like, I guess, the purpose of flour, right? Like, we have so many kinds of flours, and let's just try to list the ways we use them,
Hmm.
because I'm pretty sure we don't use them in only one way.
Right. Why don't you start?
Okay, yeah, let's say I'll just list how I use atta, whole wheat flour. I use it for making rotis, which in Punjab are also called fulkas. I love that word. You can make tandoori roti. You can make even puri with it, which is fried. You can make it just with atta. You can make halwa with it.
Right.
Um, so those are the two things I can think of for atta, like whole wheat atta. But if I start thinking of besan, then I can think of other things. Like I would mix besan and atta to make missi roti ka atta.
Wow.
And so I could make missi roti like that. I could use besan again to make a halwa, to make a shira, to make laddus. Actually, the whole wheat atta can be used to make pinnis
Right.
and right.
पिन्नी में शायद
uh,
दाल भी पड़ती है, हमारे यहाँ जो बनती
हाँ
है
हाँ हाँ
उड़द की दाल
मतलब
पड़ती है.
अच्छा मतलब उसमें मिक्स कर लो और
Right.
फिर जो भी बनाना है बना सकते हो. पंजीरी में भी आटा डलता है और भी जो भी यू कैन मिक्स अ लॉट ऑफ अदर इंग्रेडिएंट्स. Then with a version of the atta, the refined version, which we call maida, you can make
All-purpose flour, I
all,
think,
which
in
is
terms
yes,
of the West's understanding.
yes, is used to make double roti.
Right.
And we'll talk about double roti. We'll come back to that. But it's also used, as you just mentioned, your kulche ka atta or your even puri ka sometimes. You can mix maida in those also. And naan. Like naan is commonly maida.
Right.
Naan is not whole wheat roti. And that's an important distinction to make because if you don't know Indian food as it's made at home, you might assume ki tandoori naan and tandoori roti is all we eat. But actually, we stay away from naan.
Right.
In your everyday eating, you will not try and you will not eat maida that much. You want to stay away from these highly refined flours.
Right. So coming to just referencing episode one, I think, where I say roti khaiye means, so roti, by roti I mean chapati or fulka. I love the word fulka too because वो फूल जाता है. It plumps up with like air,
हाँ हाँ.
steam, and it's beautiful. So uh, roti khaiye or roti khalo means whole wheat flatbread. And I mentioned bread because we will talk of double roti.
Yeah.
But I was watching that video of late Floyd Cardo's with Babish, which and with Andrew
Mm-hmm.
Ria of Binging with Babish fame. And he's teaching him three kinds of flatbreads or Indian breads. And he says that the naan is what the north eats, but
Okay.
he's right that the naan is eaten in the north, but it's also a very restaurant food kind of interpretation of what kind of bread North Indians eat. We eat chapati. Even in the south, they eat chapati. And by that, I mean
Hmm.
fulka or roti. So, in the simplest
Yeah.
terms, roti
Hmm.
is a simple whole wheat flatbread.
Right, right. And just like the word atta, roti also like in the north in roti and in Punjabi like they will term the same sentence becomes roti khadi, just like have you eaten. Also just means a meal. So roti means a meal. Have you eaten?
Right,
It's a
right.
simple question. And I think the naan has again a longer history than just Indian food. Like because like Mughlai cuisine and Central Asian cuisine that came, it's come from other places. So if you go look at Afghani food and look at other foods, they make breads in large ovens in large communal. In fact, like a community will have a baker and they'll just go give them their dough. That baker will make it for you and you go pick it up later. And so that actually is more naan like
Which is
versus what we make.
right, which is also reminding me of Khamiri roti or even
Huh.
Kashmiri kind of breads, which are also a lot of times
Yeah.
oven. I don't know much, but I've heard stories from my mom's friend who's Kashmiri and now lives in Delhi.
Hmm.
But I've heard, and during Mahashivratri, हमारे यहाँ रोट आते थे
Acha.
from our Kashmiri neighbor, and these were sweet rotis with my mom made them, but she couldn't put poppy seeds on top because
Oh,
in the UAE poppy seeds are banned
okay.
substance. It's a banned substance, so you can't get them here. But she didn't put that. And oh wait, oh, should I say this on the podcast? She
Yeah.
put them. I told her, hey, you're not allowed. She's like, मैंने तो बहुत ज़्यादा घी डाल के रोट बना दी है.
Oh, अच्छा.
मैंने लेने. I want to. I made
Bring
them so
them.
that I can get them to
Yeah.
you. And I said, but you can't do that. You can't get that. Get arrested.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that reminds me, there's a roti in, like I saw this on a show, they made Khuba roti. And I think that comes from also like Rajasthan and those areas. So there is a tradition of making these thick rotis because if you're cooking on an open fire, you can then cook these alongside. And tandoori rotis were, again, in Punjab also, there used to be a culture of having a communal kitchen. My dadi actually remembers it. So as a
Sanja
yes,
chula.
Sanja
What does
chula means
Sanja chula mean?
Sanja is like together. So one kitchen for the
Hmm.
community. So to bake bread. So the same culture that is still practiced in other countries. And they would take their dough and get the bread cooked there because having maintaining a tandoor in your house is an expensive proposition. So instead, you just have one where everybody can take their dough.
I don't know anybody in the present day and age who has a tandoor and lives in an urban area.
My memory of tandoor is from my grandparents' house in the village, like seasonally, and
Hmm.
up to I think they're all electric, right? Like if anybody is trying to even buy a tandoor or set it up, it's electric. But we digress.
Hmm.
So let's come back to the double
Hmm.
roti. What does that mean?
So my it reminds me of my dadaji saying like आज double roti खा लेते ने uh, or like double roti means bread. I think for that generation,
Yeah.
for my grandparents' generation, although they will say bread or they will say band bund, which means which is my brother and I laugh very often. Like we would laugh whenever we talk about कि क्या खाया है पाव भाजी band bund. So that is how my dadaji used to say band bund खा देने.
Uh,
Like as if, oh, that's not something I like, but
hmm,
okay, it's convenience. It's convenient
yeah.
food. And speaking of convenience, and because I mentioned pav bhaji, the pav is like the Portuguese sort of version of a bun
Mm-hmm.
for Western India, for Maharashtra,
Hmm.
and the like. I mentioned pav bhaji, and I was listening to another podcast
Mm-hmm.
where they were talking of chaat food, and this was the
Mm-hmm.
Frying Pan Adventures Deep Fried podcast, and they were trying to list chaat foods, and they mentioned that the pav bhaji came from because the mill workers in Maharashtra would work till late and all that, and their wives were like, "Hey, I know you're going to come late. मैंने पाव बनाया हुआ है. Nobody is going to make fresh roti for you at 2 a.m." So that's how the pav bhaji came into being. So that's it, it's
Oh,
convenience.
yeah.
And in our house, roti or double roti or bread is, I think it started off as something very convenient.
Hmm.
Like आज रोटी बनाने का मन नहीं है. We've even had like a spicy chole हमने बनाए हैं और हम उसको bread पे डाल के खा लेते हैं. That's also something like you
Right.
have all sorts of weird combinations in each house. So that's also something that we've eaten. We would fill up leftover dal in a bread and cook it
Make
on
a
a
sandwich.
griddle.
Okay.
Yeah, make a
Yeah.
sandwich out of it. So that's also another thing that's a very Indian way of eating bread. What
Oh,
about you?
yeah. Yeah, double roti has always meant bread for us also, like the sandwich bread. And for the longest time, India has only had white bread, like, buying brown. We would be very suspect. Is it actually whole wheat or is it just colored brown?
अभी भी
Even now?
even
Acha.
now.
Uh-huh. So yeah, definitely. And I remember this one person. He was like a peon at one office that I worked at for a few months, and he was also like very ki nahi double roti to nahi khate, अच्छी नहीं होती और very critical of it.
Why?
And
Because मैदा होता है.
मैदा होता है. It's not, yeah, like for your digestive system, it's not the best. So double rotis always meant that, and pao is always meant buns, and that's a good. I did not know that that was a Portuguese thing.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
is, I think, a Portuguese, a Goan sort of a origin to the pau in India.
Okay.
So that's definitely there. I should look into it and mention it in the notes. But I just missed out talking about my love for parothas because I won't go on too long about it.
Yeah.
But I have to just mention that because we spoke of roti, a lot of times breakfast in my house, like I mentioned in episode 1, was parothi and sabzi.
Yeah.
And there was a time when my Masi, my mother's elder sister, she came and lived with us, and she was such a gifted cook, and she made the best lacha parotha.
Oh.
So she would make like it two ways. Either there is an accordion fold, you grease it up, you roll it up, you roll a small golf ball into a goal flat thing, and then you grease it up. You either fold it into an accordion shape and then roll it up, or you just do a serpentine sort of a roll and then just snake you
You're
just
right.
put it on
Curl
top
it
of each
around.
other, twirl it around like it's like a snake thing coming together. So these
Yeah.
were two things, and oh my god, the patience that she had with sekoing the parotha, and it would be crispy, and my mouth is watering. And as soon as she would
Yeah.
take it off the tawa, she would crush it with her hands. I don't know what
Yeah.
kind of tolerance certain cooks have with heat. Like they have no feeling in their hands or
Right.
what. But Masi made the best parathas, and oh, I
So
miss.
that reminds me of two things. One is that my grandfather, my Dadaji, always loved karari roti. So
Hi.
when he was being served lunch, he would say, जैसे अभी खा रहे हैं वो रोटी खत्म होने वाली है, next आने वाली है, तो वो आवाज लगाते थे कि भाई करारी सेक के लाना. It
Acha.
should be crisp. He loved that. I guess he liked the feeling of, biting into it with your whatever dal and curry that you're eating. And the other thing is my grandmother, when we would visit them for vacations, and especially as when we were younger kids and she also had more energy, she would serve us rotis जैसे बन के आई है. So she would pour ghee on it and then she would crush it and then put it in our plates. And those
Oh,
were that is a delicious way to eat a roti because
my
it's
mom
still
does
warm
that.
and steaming. Yeah.
I love
And the
it.
ghee just percolates into it. I love that.
But a question, like why I miss it so much and why I think you and I talk very fondly of it is because these kind of karari rotis or this kind of pulkas are so easy to make and on a flame. And right now with an electric stove
Yeah,
right now, I miss that. I really miss the charred roti with little black specks on it. So that
right.
with ghee, oh, really miss that. That's really
Yeah.
tasty.
It takes a little more work to get that same consistency on, but I do like the cast iron griddle. It kind of takes it close enough, so you still get the blackening and all of that. So I just want to close with talking about, we've mentioned all sorts of staples. The only few things that we could mention in closing is that these grains, the whole wheat is found in a few other forms. Like one notable thing that we actually do have on the blog is the dalia, which is a
Right.
broken wheat. And we've also talked about, we also have suji, so we have halwa, but suji or semolina or cream of wheat, as it's called here, can also be used to make upma, which is a very easy and quick snack or breakfast food, also mixed into dosas. And then another rice thing, a form of rice that we enjoy is poha, because we do have a recipe for that as well.
Right.
So I think the five staples that we started with, each of them can lead to so many different things, right?
Correct.
And their forms change. The way you process them, even just the way you cook them, can change how you use them. I think there's so many journeys that you can take with these.
There are so many possibilities, exactly. And with the
Yeah.
kind of produce that you have, you can make so many things. So, like you mentioned, rava. You mentioned
Hmm.
suji, which is also called rava in South India. So there are some different versions of that also. So yeah, of course, it's so diverse, the number of possibilities with these things, like you mentioned. But if you were to ask me beyond those five things, I would have gone on about oats or uh,
Yeah.
I don't know, quinoa,
Yeah,
but I
taken
don't
it
eat
to right.
quinoa
Right.
and all. I don't eat so much, but yeah, there are so many other grains that I don't always stock, but dalia I do stock. But anyway, never mind.
No, so on that note, like there is so much to explore, and we are still learning about new grains from the new world. And quinoa is one of those. But on that note, let's wrap it up. And you will find lots of details in our episode notes and the accompanying posts. So please go there, visit that on the website. Follow us on Google and Apple Podcasts. You can find us as Kitchen Postcards Podcast. That will lead you
Right.
to us. Subscribe to us. We are also on SoundCloud. And of course, go to www.kitchenpostcards.com.
For
Yes,
for
what did
all
I
the
miss?
recipes. No, no, I just want to say that a lot of these recipes are on the blog and we link them up. So yeah, do
Yes.
visit that.
Yeah. And until next time,
Bye bye.
bye. Bye.